Let's get the Jordan Peterson.
The Joe Rogan experience.
Which is another person that I was right on the money on a very long time ago when people used to yell at me over that too. If you go back all the way to the Young Turks days, I made videos about Jordan Peterson being a fucking right-wing douchebag, and people used to fucking yell at me all the time for that too. They were like, how dare you say that? He's a liberal. Fuck you. You're just jealous. You're just jealous of his clout and his Canadian sex appeal.
Experience.
It's interesting because you're talking about tyrants, right? And you're talking about people of extreme power and how that corrupts. And in that case, there's a large percent.
Yeah. Your provocative takes definitely inspire and attract vitriol. Are you Chat GPTing this? Because, yeah, my provocative takes inspire and attract vitriol. I used to watch you on TYT before you said the 9/11 shit, and that pulled me in.
Percentage of those people that are violating all those things that you said, because they do manipulate and they do rely on fear. Like,
well, you know, Nietzsche was an advocate of the will to power, right?
Oh, here we go. Nietzsche. This is washed, buddy. See, 201,000 views in one day only. I'm telling you, this kind of commentary, okay, the pseudo-intellectual, centrist right-wing takes had a moment. That moment is gone. That was Gamergate. That was like early Trump. That's when there was this attitude where they were like, oh, we just want like brilliant intellectual right-wing commentators that, you know, pull us in and say that they're actually liberal, but, you know, they're on the side of objective neutrality. They're on no side, right? Is gone. Nobody wants this shit. Nobody wants a fucking goofy ass anti-SJW who's an academic. They want to hear like main vein, straight piped, alpha dog, wearing the tightest fucking suit that you've ever seen. They still wear clownish suits, by the way, but just a different style of clownish suits. You know, they want to look like the most Talladega car dealer you've ever seen. Dudes who just look like they are selling cars at a car dealership in Fort Lauderdale, okay, that say stuff like, women ain't shit, and they deserve less. That's what these guys want to hear. That's what the youth, the conservative movement wants to hear. They want to hear about Jews and how they're responsible for everything that's happened. Like, everything that's happened throughout history, it's somehow always back to the fucking Jews. Like, that's what they want to hear now. They want the main shit. They went from doing like experimenting with a little bit of experimenting with some uppers every now and then to just straight piping crack cocaine, okay?
You can imagine that there's a variety of potential motivating forces, and one would be...
And Jordan knows that too. He calls them the woke right. That's what they're trying to fucking astroturf here. Jordan Peterson has gone full woke, sad to see. No. I'm not even talking about him. These guys are on the anti-Semitic right. Jordan Peterson is on the pro-Israel, and I mean, he is a little anti-Semitic as well, but he's on the pro-Israel side. These guys are on the anti-Israel, but also fuck Jews side, okay?
Hedonic pleasure. That's the golden calf worshippers, by the way. So that's just short-term hedonism. And that doesn't work. And by work, I mean it doesn't iterate socially. It's like if it's all about you and what some women you wants now,
right.
First of all, that's not going to serve you well tomorrow. And I don't want to be anywhere near you.
Right.
Like you're literally an overgrown 2-year-old.
Right.
And that gets pretty ugly by the time you're 40.
Right.
So the whole golden calf thing, no, that's just off the table.
But isn't it kind of celebrated amongst certain high achievers, particularly in the business world, like that hedonistic, sociopathic drive to constantly get more numbers on the ledger?
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's exactly hedonism.
Greed is good. That's Wall Street, right? That's Michael Douglas, right?
Yeah,
Greed is good.
Yeah, well, okay, let's delve into that for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
I'm not advocating for
I know
that,
you're not. I know you're not. You can turn to hedonism. You can fall into nihilism. You can turn to hedonism, or you can turn to power. Okay, this Abrahamic covenant, it's different than power. It's adventure. It's romantic adventure, actually.
Right.
And that's not the only definition of God in the Old Testament, by the way. There's something deeper than that it refers to. So those are the options. Now, you said, don't the achievers, you know, who are stacking up numbers, it's like they found a way forward to attain status, but they've fixated on an element that shouldn't be fundamental. They're not trying to store up the treasure in heaven. They're trying to store up the treasure on earth, and that's better than not doing it. See, this is another thing we need to understand, because I've spent a lot of time, for example, trying to figure out why people are attracted to Andrew Tate. And I know why they're attracted to Andrew Tate. They'd rather be Andrew Tate than an incel. And they're right. It's best to
You're a fucking nerd, big dog. You're a goddamn nerd, okay? Oh, Andrew Tate, these children, they want to be Andrew Tate. Exactly. You designed the environment for these fucking incels to move away from you to Andrew Tate, okay? Also, Andrew Tate fans are incels. They're incels who are just... I don't think you could be like a normal guy and be that invested in fucking Andrew Tate.
Give the devil his due. Like if you had to choose between being...
What separates you from the rest? Sell me the stream. 18-month subscriber. Bitch, you've already been sold. You've sold for 18 months. Shut the fuck up.
kind of flabby and unhealthy and resentful and in your basement, looking at pornography, hating women because all of them reject you all the time and you deserve it, and you're ineffectual and the future looks pretty damn gloomy. And then you see Andrew Tate, who's tough and hyper masculine in an almost manner that's almost a parody, and wealthy and famous, and apparently has women at his disposal, with a fair bit of stress on the idea of disposal. You'd think, well, I'd much rather be him than me. That's the incorporation of the shadow from the Jungian perspective. It's like,
yeah,
it's right.
And you think about the number of men that are incels. The thing about men also, if they get rejected a lot, they associate women with pain.
Yeah.
And then they get angry at those women because those women cause them pain. Like, it's just very simple equation.
Of course.
And that's how you get a man hater. Or, excuse me, that's how you get a woman hater.
Oh,
and the
yeah.
same could be said for, that's how you get a man hater, right? You associate men with rejection and cruelty.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you
and
think they're all
men,
that way.
young men in particular are more likely to be rejected. Young women may have difficulty finding the ideal man, but they don't face the same degree of universal rejection. So it's hard on young men.
Well, they're not the pursuers, right, as much. The young women aren't.
Right. Well, and women are the gatekeepers fundamentally of sex. So that's their essential power. That's also the power of chastity.
And that's the scary thing about acquiring wealth, is that wealth allows you to bypass the genetic social hierarchy.
Yeah,
you
well,
just
I talked to Russell Brand about this a lot. You know, women threw themselves at him. How'd that work out?
Wait, he's homies with Russell Brand? Wait, so like this literally is just about Israel, I think. Because Russell Brand is the worst of the worst, is also an anti-intellectual grifter in the same vein as like the Andrew Tates of the world, but just like a different seasoning on it. But he seems to be pro-Israel. Whereas a lot of these other guys are not only anti-Israel, but also anti-Semitic. I think for most of these dudes, I'm a little surprised. I thought that their gripe was with the anti-intellectual branch of the right wing, which is, of course, all reactionary and, of course, anti-intellectual across the board. It's just simply that these guys present themselves as intellectuals. JP talked about lipstick in the workplace like it was a Hitler mustache. He is 100% a lame Andrew Tate. Oh my God, that's such a banger quote. Exactly. He does. He hates women just as much as Andrew Tate does. You're so right. I'm kind of falling for the fucking bullshit that he's presenting here for a second. Yeah, he is just as much as a vicious woman hater as Andrew Tate is. What the fuck are we talking about? He just doesn't have the broy vibes that people respond to. That's it. He's also a boring nerd who tries to intellectualize the fucking hatred that he has for women. They wear rouge to be able to attract these harlots. They wear rouge, Joe, to attract men in the workplace. We don't know if women in the workplace are good. We simply do not know. There hasn't been enough time to make this assessment. Do women deserve less? Alexander Solzhenitsyn had a wonderful take in the Gulag Archipelago. As opposed to Myron from Fed and Fat going to a fucking college campus and sitting there in front of a panel that says, women deserve less, change my mind. These two arguments are the same. It's just he's a lame-ass, boring nerd who is trying to intellectualize his perspective, and Myron is too stupid to do that. He's even dumber than fucking Jordan Peterson. He doesn't want to do the pseudo-intellectual shit. That's it. He also knows not to say, you know, Jews are responsible for all the evil of society. He's too smart for that, of course. Not to say that he doesn't think that. I'm sure he is not exactly fond of Jews either. He just is, you know, smart enough to hide his actual opinion about Jews. And he's pro-Israel openly, and probably also just pro-Israel in general. This is not different than what this fucking douchebag is doing on a regular basis. As a matter of fact, this is the logical conclusion of douchebags like this. Let me tell you, Joe, let me tell you about my grandmother's pubes.
Not great. You know, it threw him into great spiritual confusion. It was empty and hollow. And that's worth knowing, see, because you might say to the people who are interested in the shadow figures, and Tate plays that role, the master of women.
Tate fuck your daughter, dude. What are you talking about? He straight piped Jordan Peterson's daughter for a while, okay? He is almost directly responsible for Andrew Tate. Y'all forgot about that. I didn't. Let me tell you something about the Dragon of Chaos, okay? His daughter almost killed him. Because of his benzo addiction, he wanted to quit. He wanted to quit benzos, okay? Jordan Peterson. He couldn't do the normal way for some reason. I don't know why. So his daughter was like, let's go do this experimental way to quit benzos in, I think it was either like Russia or Serbia or something like that. I don't know where it was. But they had to go do it. I think they had to go do it in literally Russia because they wouldn't do it in the Western world. The Western world, they were like, no, we are not doing cold turkey benzo withdrawals. You will die. So he almost died then, okay? He went to Russia and he almost died. So then they moved his body to Serbia when he was in a fucking coma in the middle of COVID, and his daughter was gallivanting with Andrew Tate, getting fucked by Andrew Tate, and hanging out at hookah clubs, and brought COVID back to Jordan B. Peterson's home as he was fucking comatose. You're saying that as if she's not hot? Come the fuck on. No, I mean, yeah, Andrew Peterson. Jordan Peterson's daughter is attractive. I admit that for sure. Yeah, they had to put him in a coma to get him to quit benzos cold turkey. And then in the aftermath of that recovery, he went to Serbia. And literally, they put him in a medically induced coma in Russia. And then she went to Serbia with Jordan. Disgusting take. I'm sorry. Okay, I call balls and strikes. I remember I was a massive JBP follower back in the day, and then I found you, and for a while I followed you both, even though I knew about your JBP takedown video, till one day I watched it, and that's the moment it clicked that he was a deep shit. What the Chinese think of Jordan Peterson? Hot knowledge. This Peterson beast once hid in Russia for drug rehabilitation due to prescription drug addiction. His most famous achievement is to go crazy on Twitter late at night, such as forwarding stills from a special fetish love action movie and claiming that it was a live shot of a sperm extraction factory in China. Learning self-discipline from him is like learning to be low-key from Musk and being humble from Trump.
Let's say. Why not do that? Because you need an answer to that. If it's certainly when it's better than being lonely, isolated, bitter, and ineffectual. That's for sure.
Right.
Well, it's because you don't confuse a stepping stone with the pinnacle. That's why. There's way more beyond that. I mean, you're a tough guy. You went through your disciplinary processes on the physical side, in particular, the intellectual side too, I might add.
Just say that he worked out, man. Like, what do you mean? Just say that he worked out. You went through the process. You went through the interdisciplinary process on the physical side.
You know, you've got what Tate has to offer, but you're respectable. Why?
Well, I
Why?
have a completely different background than him, first of all. And also, my feeling in life is whenever you can, be nice. That's like a general guideline.
Do you mean nice or good?
I mean both.
Okay.
Nice as well. I get the posturing. I get how it would be attractive to young men. I get it. If I was a young man, I would certainly be drawn to him, and I was to many fighters. And I accepted a lot of personality flaws in people that I admired as fighters because they were very successful at doing this one insanely difficult thing.
Right.
And oftentimes,
That's true. After JP woke up from his coma, like 2 months later, he crashed out over Elliot Page, called the doctor that did his top surgery a butcher, and got hired by the Daily Wire. And it's kind of funny because it's okay, conservative dad. You didn't do that intentionally, okay? It's fine. It's all right, dude. Chill. Okay? It's all right. He literally said that doctors who perform gender confirmation surgeries on consenting adults are akin to Mengele. Okay. He said doctors that perform gender confirmation surgeries on trans people that are consenting adults are doing Holocaust style experimentation. He is a fucking psycho.
that requires a certain amount of narcissism. It requires a certain amount of internal focus. And ironically enough, not at the championship level. Ironically enough, it gets you close, but it doesn't get you to be the king. The kings are almost
Precisely.
universally disciplined, focused, and generally kind. They're some of the nicest people, the best at the most difficult thing athletically to do. And the most difficult, you're conquering other
Why do you think
trained
that
men.
is?
I think you have to be.
Why?
I think
Why? Why
Miyamoto Musashi wrote about this in the Book of Five Rings. You must have balance in everything in life. If you have imbalance, you can get pretty far because you're so
specialized.
Right, you're so driven.
Yep.
But you will fall prey to the balanced man.
Yeah, well, that's exactly my point.
You will also recognize characteristics in him that you envy and that you wish you had yourself. Like if you're a narcissist and a sociopath, you know you are, and you can't really be proud of yourself. You can't. You don't have the benefit of the positive feedback that you get from true kindness to others. You don't have.
Well,
that.
you also know that your reputation is founded on sand. And one of the way to rationalize that is, well, everyone does that.
Right.
Everyone's like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, but then you don't trust or like anyone.
Right. And then you're really alone.
That's for sure.
You're really alone. And then if you do achieve success, it's hollow because you realize like.
So, you just outlined there the progression that Carl Jung identified as characteristic of individuation, right? With the second thing that you said. So imagine that you start an incel, right? You're ineffectual and you're rejected as a young man. Now there are exceptions, but let's just play that out as the unhappy majority. Okay, now you look for a shadow figure to sharpen you up, to toughen you up, and to make you strive at least along one dimension, right? And so then you do that. Well, then the next thing that happens in the Jungian stage progression is, for a man, it's integration of the anima, which is the feminine part. And it's integration, it's not replacement. It's like, oh, well, then you discover the utility of empathy and compassion and kindness and mercy and care, while still being able to deal out justice, let's say. And so then you bridge that gap, and then that integration you just said, even among fighters, that's what puts them in the highest place, right? That's right. That's right. So, but it's hard for the people, it's hard for those who are completely disaffected and also quite angry about it. The people who are interested in the pathway that Tate offers, they're not so unhappy that he's hard on women because they're pretty mad at women. And so, if it's the bitch or me, then I'll pick me. Right. Exactly. And so, and it is very crucial to get this progression correct, because monster's better than wimp.
Right.
Right. But the question is, what's better than monster? And so it's very interesting that you made those comments on the fighting side, because you wouldn't necessarily think that it would be true in that world as well.
Well, one of the best examples.
There's no way Joe is having fun with this. I don't think this is so boring.